Hey guys, Adam and Sophie here, back with another Encite Live. This week I think we've got two big brands to discuss, kind of what they've been doing, what's changing, shaking up the marketplace. So yeah, you want to kick us off? What did you find this week?
Yeah, I found this week Visa.
Okay.
Everybody knows Visa.
Everybody loves Visa.
I don't know, loves, but you know, some people have preferences. But big iconic brand, right?
Right.
So they are working at refreshing their brand identity.
Okay.
After seven years right now.
Okay.
So they are kind of moving away from, or actually, so they're kind of pushing more a broader financial services kind of outlook instead of they're primarily known as a credit card company, right? But they provide so much more, and they have a bunch of different services they provide. So they are kind of refreshing their brand, and they've done some evolution over the years. But it's interesting of kind of where they go and where some of these iconic brands go. But if you haven't seen it before, this is what their brand looked like when they first came out. So Bank of America, it wasn't even called Visa at the time. But over the years, it's evolved, from the 60s into the 70s and 80s and even the early 2000s. They've kind of evolved this brand and their brand identity into, where they are today. But they're refreshing it for 2021, and they're doing a word mark and a brand symbol. And it's really interesting to see kind of how they've evolved over the years, but still staying pretty consistent, right? Because we did something on the Gap, right? The Gap brand, and they had such a backlash as they went back. But Visa's trying to evolve it and trying to make it look similar, keeping some of that equity. This is what I think. They're trying to keep that equity, but at the same time, they're trying to evolve it for the times, So it's kind of cool to kind of see how they're moving it forward and moving it into a different era. Definitely.
So as someone in the space, what are your thoughts on it? Like, what's your review?
Well, it seems like the symbol that they're using, that kind of icon, is still using, the yellow and the blue, bars, those rectangles, because that was typically how a credit card was laid out. The blue bar at the top, white in the middle, and then the yellow at the bottom. But now they're just using that symbol. So my thought here are they equating that to, that's an equal signs, that's equality, that's inclusion.
Right.
Big social kind of commentary out there right now is inclusion, is making sure that the whole segments, all the segments of our populations are get to be stand up and counted well. So the word mark itself has changed, evolved. Very little. They've changed some color there. They've kind of used different shapes in the V to where it's that kind of upsloping, portion that they use as a super graphic, however they want to use that. But it seems to me, as soon as I saw that icon, I'm thinking equality.
That's interesting that you immediately went there. I can totally see why. It's super similar to Human Rights Coalition or Human Rights Campaign. I can never remember which one that is. But that it's like that iconic blue and yellow equal sign is the logo. I can totally see that playing into it now that you mentioned that, but I don't think I would have caught that on the outset.
Yeah, it totally hit me right away.
I mean, I like that. Honestly, I like it even if it is just calling back to that credit card, because there's that like legacy element to it, and like, let's, evolve our brand, but let's do it taking into account where we started, which I think is cool too.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that they are trying to update for 2021 and stay relevant, but you mentioned it already. The Gap thing is a really good example. I immediately thought of Pepsi as there doesn't need to be this huge jump for it to be applicable to a new audience or a new time,
Right.
And I think that they're doing a really good job of staying relevant, but staying on brand.
Yeah, and I don't know that people have such a that their opinions of kind of Visa and what they provide is so much tied to their identity as like a Gap or a Coke or a Pepsi or a consumer product. But at the same time, I think that Visa's still trying to make sure that they hold on to that equity.
Yeah.
Because it's important, right? They don't want to throw it away. And it's not like, Joe's Crab Shack, not Joe's Crab Shack, that's a chain, but but Jimmy's sandwich shop
Right,
down
right,
the
right.
street.
Yeah.
People know that, and it's very much a neighborhood spot. So that equity isn't as impactful, I suppose, if that changes. But Visa stands to lose hundreds.
You have a mission statement.
Yes.
Millions of dollars potentially
Yeah,
in
totally.
Financial
Do you have
services
a
if somebody is
broader-
confused.
Yeah, but who do you think
Totally.
about that brand, that piece? But
they're on the front line.
I like where they're going.
You know, other
It also
employees,
seems to me that
yeah,
they're doing
yeah.
it quite
Lower
frequently,
level or
and they're
kind of-
doing it
But,
kind of settle those changes. Because
yeah.
they did
Starting
it
a
in 2006, they
conversation.
did it in
Regardless.
2011, I believe. So it seems to me that they're subtly changing some of those things to keep up with the times. Whether that's bad or good, I don't know. Consistency is key for me. Has always been consistent. And what is it really that they're bringing? What is the change really bringing out something to move the needle? I wouldn't think so at this point. But
Right.
I can. I guess you'd have to speak to their agency of record. Why
Kinds of
Dominion
things,
can
but
be
what do you do
huge agency?
Yeah.
I know they
don't
thought
really
about
have
this,
a
so
brand
For sure.
strategy.
Again, we always talk about it's easy for us to
what are some
to criticize or
It's amazing
talk about
to,
something, but we're not involved in a brand strategy
but
session, so we
there
know where that
are,
conversation has gone.
needs to be a
But
little
I
bit structured.
know
Needs to
that
have
an
specific
agency of record of
questions
that size
standpoint.
has gone through all the due
while we
For
diligence.
sure.
do that.
But I
And
would
having
be
a brand
interested to see kind of
brainstorming session
fly
with
in
the
the
rest of
wall
the
or kind of
executive
see a
team
summary of
is
kind of their thoughts, because
critical.
I know that
Yeah.
would make a lot more
Invaluable.
sense in the
Absolutely.
direction they're
Because
going.
that's going
Yeah,
to
I
kind
mean,
of move
and
into
as
some of
easy
the
as
next
it is for
portions
us
of
to
branding,
criticize, I
which
think
is
it's
trying to
also
build
easy.
out
Like
your
personally,
brand attributes.
it's easy
of
for me to sit here
what
and
is
be
your
like, I
brand
think it's
perception,
great.
your brand
I think that
image,
what they're
your
doing
voice,
and the way that
all
they
those things
have
that we put
evolved, like you
together in
said,
our
kind
brand
of
brief.
minimally every 5
Those are
years
the
or
kind of
so.
like your
I think
underlying
that's fantastic.
for
It's
all
almost
your
like they're just
messaging
sharpening
and
the
who you're trying
image
to get out to.
subtly.
And I
you
think
know?
that it's
And,
easy
like,
for us,
how graphics
session
get better
teacher,
subtly over time. That kind of feels like
for driving,
what this is, and
but
it's not
idea
slapping
that's-
you in the
Right.
face with like
you set
brand new colors,
message-
brand new logo, brand new tagline, like all of that. So I think it's good, but I will be interested to see if that does affect, their market share or anything.
Right. Yeah. I guess the other point that you bring up is, refreshing something to create. We talk about this a lot. Is there's such a good thing about repetition and consistency, but at the same time, people continue to see the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not as memorable. So those subtle changes, that may be part of the strategy. Those subtle changes without changing the
whole thing,
foundation
yeah.
of that, brand identity, but they're doing subtle changes to kind of create a little bit more visual interest.
Right.
From a brand identity standpoint, that could be part of their strategy. Well,
Yeah.
But wish them the best, and I'm sure that it'll work. I'm sure it'll be okay.
Right. I think they'll be fine. I don't think in a month we'll be all switching our credit cards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
So for me,
you got a part of inside marketing. So something happened in the
Yes.
social spectrum, right?
So, and I feel like lately, I mean, maybe not lately, that might be the wrong word, but in the past year or so, I feel like the social space has really shifted a lot, especially with TikTok. And my news this week is kind of how Twitter's adapting to that. So fleets are their kind of take on Instagram stories, Facebook stories, that kind of thing. And now they're offering advertisers the full screen, which is new. You used to be able to advertise on Twitter, but it wasn't taking up the entire screen space. So I don't know.
On mobile?
Yeah.
On mobile, okay.
So I don't know if you have ever like been swiping through like an Instagram story of like maybe a brand or a company that you follow, and it'll take you to an ad and you kind of swipe up into more information and it takes you to either their site or gives you a coupon code or whatever. That's kind of what this is now allowing advertisers to do on Twitter. I read that they were describing it as essentially like an online billboard on your phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how users are going to react to that, but I think it's kind of like moving the needle and changing what's available on that platform. Because I will say, of all the social platforms that I interact with regularly, I feel like I see the least amount of advertising on Twitter.
Yeah.
You know?
And some of it has to do, I would think it's built around, it looks organic, right?
Yeah.
It kind of looks at those pieces.
Right.
But when does it take place? Do they know when it starts going?
It's starting now.
Okay.
But I also think that how you were just speaking to, like, there is that organic, like, you're not really being interrupted by that on Twitter. I think because you have to click into the story, you have to click into that little fleet at the top to see these.
That will still, like Instagram does,
yeah,
right?
it'll still kind of be, that sense of authenticity will still be preserved, but it's just a matter of, well, let's say that I follow Nike on Twitter, and I just want to see what's going on, and then suddenly here's this full page ad that I, am now suddenly being served with.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be interesting to see, like, are users bothered by it, or is it kind of more on their own terms because they have to click in,
So it's kind of like, it's almost, some of the platforms follow each other, right? Like they follow some of those trends, and then something new comes out.
Yeah.
Clubhouse comes out,
right.
and then Facebook has something that's, similar
it's
to,
a game
to
of
get,
catch up.
Get their audience. But yeah, somebody comes in with a new thing. So could be helpful for advertisers because of that real estate space. I mean, the more real estate that you have, the better it is for users seeing your advertising. But at the same time, it still comes down to content, right?
Yeah.
It still comes down to value. It still comes down to interest, education, entertainment, whatever that ad is,
right.
You're still trying to have to cut through that clutter because users still aren't stupid. They get it, right?
Yeah.
But if you can create it organically, or you can create something memorable, something that cuts through the clutter, that would be beneficial for sure.
Definitely.
Because that real estate, but it's that Me Too piece that's still kind of pretty prevalent around there.
Yeah.
So.
I found this really interesting because as someone who I kind of grew up in the social media era. Like, I got a Facebook in middle school, I think. And then from then on, just like, then it was Twitter, then it was Instagram, then it was Snapchat, then it was TikTok, whatever. But this is kind of the first time that I've felt like I can perceive changes happening. Like with TikTok, I think that really, like, because I was into Vine, which was like the precursor.
It was like 6 seconds, wasn't it? Yeah.
And then like TikTok happened, and I think we talked about this in a previous episode. I was like a late adopter to that. Like for a while I was like, I'm too old for this almost. And then suddenly I was like, oh, I'm now addicted to this. And I think that it's just interesting how, Twitter's a huge company, Facebook is a huge company, and like they kind of like set the tone for social, not only content, but like ads and how that works. And now the fact that Twitter is having to play catch up is just so interesting to me.
Yeah, it is interesting. It seems like those trends, and I know they have people in there that they don't know necessarily what's going to take off and what's going to kind of go viral for audiences and what they do. But I know that they try to do that. I would assume that these big companies have some focus groups and market research to see what users want and how they react. Plus, they could have data of how they interact just by watching the Skynet thing, watching us all what we do.
Totally. Big brother.
Yeah, but still some things take off and some things don't, right?
Yeah.
And something that's kind of piece. So it'd be interesting to see what happens, but now that's an option for our clients. Now that's an option for people out there in the marketing world to get their more real estate and more their marketing messages out to their audiences.
And I kind of liked that comparison to like the digital billboard, because you really don't get that on any other platform. I guess with the Instagram thing, if you're swiping up into it, but yeah, I think that could be, it was an interesting way to describe it, because I feel like people are less, like I pass a billboard on the highway and it doesn't feel intrusive to me, and it's interesting that they're comparing that to something that a lot of people might find intrusive,
Right. Yeah.
But it's interesting, and I think that it's just kind of the way that the world is going to shift. Like, how can we expand who we're reaching and use these different facets of what social media is becoming to really like reach those people, you know?
I guess, for us, and I was just having a conversation with a client the other day, it starts to get super granular.
Yeah.
It's all these little things that can go into, all these little pieces that go into some kind of marketing campaign, not just a social marketing campaign. Now it's really granular and social. Does a fleet, does an Instagram story, does a Clubhouse, come into it audio only, how are those things working together? And each little small tweak could change it. And this could be a change for Twitter.
It's just like there's more and more to tweak,
I know. It's more work on our side. And,
more opportunities for our clients.
More opportunities. It's exactly.
Yeah.
So cool. Is that all we got for today?
That's all we got for today. Yeah.
Easy enough.
We love it.
So again, this is Adam and Sophie for Encite Live. Glad you guys could join us, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.